Well, all right. You have Nvidia pushing back into all-time highs, and then you also have what's happening with the Nasdaq finally getting some love, but to end the week, we have ES and Dow not cooperating. Now, this all comes after the Fed comes out on Wednesday and points us in a good direction. They still say basically inflation doesn't matter with CPI and PPI, and that we're on track for rate cuts in the summer. And then get this, here's the bad news, or the hawkish view from the Fed, is that they're expecting more growth overall. Is this really that bad? Before you answer that, I'm not talking about the long term, I'm talking about the next 3 to 6 months, because that's what's important to us. You don't really care about your future. You want short, quick gains, and that's what I'm here to talk about. Let's get right to the content. Okay, so number one here on the Nasdaq, I just want to jump into the chart so we get this over with. Your support's right here, about 18.5, and if you get below this level, you basically get slapped. So we saw basically all morning, we bounced off those lows and pushed up on Nasdaq, a little bit of a dip into the end of the day. Then we fast forward, go over to ES, and it really wasn't that good of action. Now, I will say ES doesn't look terrible, because all things considered on higher time frames, you could really call this a bull flag with the giant green elevator Hulk candle that you got to the upside. So again, I won't say this is terrible, but it wasn't good action in comparison to what happened with the Nasdaq on the day. And then you go and take a look at the Dow. Now, again, I understand the boomers, y'all love this thing. The Dow, it's so cool. When they added some oil stocks in here, it gets me a little excited as well. But you saw that dip down into back, our previous all-time high, and that's where I expect buyers to step back in. Now, I would love for us to base above 40K on the Dow, but besides that, that's all I'm really watching for there. If you didn't catch it, Powell did speak again today, but he really was talking about with the effects of COVID, and he was overseas, so it wasn't super important, dare I say. But I will say he went into a little bit about what's happening, and he understands where the pain is. Higher interest rates together with instability in commodity prices has a stranglehold on American agriculture right now, and that's why you're seeing the grocery store literally destroy my pockets, and I feel like my pregnant wife literally is growing for the both of us. Sorry, Ali, if you're hearing this. But again, if we rewind back to what happened on, Wednesday, he sees 3 rates coming in 2024, and he affirmed that the Fed has stuck with that overall from the last meeting. So that is overall good news, especially when you look at what's happened from that data. And the biggest thing that's affecting us here is what's happening with the home market, mortgage market, things along those lines. Don't know what's happening there is kind of because of where rates are. So people are like, well, inflation's an issue. We need to raise rates. That's not really what's taking place. The price specifically of rents is all due to what's happening with the housing market. Let me just paint a clear picture for you. People have to live somewhere. Who would have thought? Now, where you have to live is solely based on can you afford a home or can you afford to rent. Now, basically 2018, 2019 to 2021, rates were sitting at very low levels. Remember the taper tantrum? Now, that's where this all becomes an issue, because you were sitting at 2 to 3% on a mortgage rate, which was awesome. And anyone that bought a house, even if it was overpriced, they were basically paying nothing on that house. Now, granted, you're going to pay on that house for a long time and pay a lot of interest, but you still weren't paying that much every single month. Whereas now you're paying a 7% rate and house prices haven't dropped that much. Whereas rents have rose. So they're kind of sitting at that equal standard right now, where both really suck to have, and you don't really want to do either one of them. And that's just what's happening overall. Now, on top of that, I will say the issue with food is a very big problem, and I'm not going to go down that, it's an issue. But what I will say is the only way to get home prices down, or the cost of living in those home prices down, not the cost of homes, because when they cut rates, houses will rocket back up. But when that does happen, rent prices should effectively get cheaper in that due process, because demand will go from rents into buying once again. Now, this is a really tricky situation that we're in, and the Fed is trying to navigate this. And I don't think they'll really know how to navigate it until they start that cut process. Now, I'm not saying it's a great plan, but what I am saying is it's going to have positive effects for the market, whether you like it or not. And again, I'm talking in the short term, not the long term. And now, just to cover what's coming up this current week, you're not going to have that much information here, but there's something I do want to cover. You have some Fed members speaking. It was a little bit of a blackout period. I do anticipate home sales to stay kind of on the downside. Going into summer, they will most likely pick up. But again, there's not a lot of information and things coming out here. Consumer confidence, not a real mover. The biggest thing that you're going to see here is going to be all the way on Thursday, GDP. Because again, what did the Fed say? Yes, they see a stronger outlook. Fed upgrades economic outlook to a slightly hawkish shift, which is hilarious that upgrading the economy means it's hawkish because that could be bad for inflation. It's just all comedy where we're at. But anyways, that's what's happening on Thursday. In theory, if GDP beats, it would be overall good for the market and you would see some strength come out. Now, the downside would be over the next few weeks, you might see the Fed not like that. But again, they're in a very sticky situation with rates and where they kind of have to do some cutting overall. You have some Michigan inflation reports there as well. And then Friday, really not too much besides PCE, but PCE will be interesting and I will be paying close attention to that. Now, what I will say is the Fed does consider PCE to be the biggest data report over CPI and PPI, but it's really not done that much. It's funny that I'm getting advertised these wedding bands. It's like they knew that I just spent an absolute rack on me and my wife's. But again, as we dive back into the charts, I really want to say a few things. What you're doing here is really relying on patience and getting the breakouts, right? We talked a lot about this in the previous video. We talked a lot about it in the videos before that. Is you want to be really patient, wait for these clean cut breakouts. And one area to do that is to check out the newsletter. Every single week on Sunday, we release this to you for free. The link is down below. You go to our website, you put in your information, potato, tomato, and you're done. You get signed up. What I will say is we will kick you off the list if you do not open the newsletter. Believe it or not, we have that data. So if you do lose it, check your spam. It might be in there. But overall, you're going to get levels on the S&P, the Nasdaq, Qs, Dow, and then a few of our favorite stocks as well, like Nvidia. We said if you get above 922, you might actually go crazy. What happens right here? A potential climb towards 922, and beyond that, there's a little resistance up to 974. Well, God bless God's plan, as Drake said. I don't know if anyone's ever said it better. You broke that level today, and you went up at literally 20 points nonstop to the top, and that's where you're going. So again, the link is down below. Check them out. Also, too, the broker we're using now is Moomoo, and I'll be transferring all my money over there. I'm just getting everything set up, getting some contracts signed. So again, I have to wait till all that's done before I can do that. But hopefully I can give you more options data here on the channel as well. The link for that is down below. I appreciate you guys supporting us. Now, going into this week, and I just want to go over some stuff that's happened this week because this week was strange. Now, Wednesday was awesome. Wednesday, cool day. Very happy about Wednesday. But what's weird is you see this is, and let me zoom in a little bit so you can see. Maybe your eyes work a little bit better than mine. But traditionally, volume rises over the course of the week. Wednesday is that middle point, and then obviously Thursday, Friday are awesome days. They perform. And this is where things get interesting. Is you go into this week and we look at Qs, and your volume dropped on Thursday and got even kind of lower here on Friday. You might have had a little volume at the end of the day, but yeah, pretty much nothing. Your lowest volume of the day was on a Friday. Again, worth mentioning, over the past 52 weeks, Friday has been your highest performing volume on SPY and Qs. And I just want to highlight that SPY is no different here. It's still absolutely atrocious. We look at this volume, and again, I mean, better than Qs, but still trash. So again, things to be considering and what we're looking out for here. Now, what I will say is it's really funny when we look at SPY and we look at Qs, is that this volume is coming kind of on the downside after you get a nice push. So we have some decent volume pushing us up and then really mediocre volume pushing us down. Now, I will say you don't need great volume to get an overall direction, but it's really worth mentioning that you usually get higher volume or picked up volume when you get a reversal. So this is what has me kind of curious and on my toes if I'm expecting this to be the short-term top. Now, again, I just want to say, I try to stay as unbiased as possible here because at the end of the day, all I care about is making money in the market. I don't really care if my thesis is right. I hope it's right. I try not to be wrong. But at the end of the day, the goal is to make money. And the only way that happens is if I'm unbiased in this market. And people like say, Tyler, you're a perma bull. Well, if I zoom back out over the past basically year, you've only gone up. I'm just saying. You went down for like a 2-month period, but it's set up for a monstrous rally, which led to Bitcoin, led to small caps, and now Nvidia is going through the roof, right? Just like everyone was saying, go short on semiconductors and AI, it's a bubble. Well, guess what? Nvidia's proving it's not a bubble. They've gone from last January of doing about $7 billion in revenue to this year to doing over 22 and expecting to do 24 to 25 next quarter. And then they released a new chip that's going to just make it even more money, right? And now you have the other AI companies following in suit, like Micron just did with their earnings. So again, I'm not here to say to go all in YOLO and drink the Kool-Aid, but what I am saying is use some common sense with what we're doing. And sometimes stop focusing on your plan and taking pride and an ego with what you're trying to do with the market. Because I think that's something that we see on social media is everyone wants to be right, when in the reality, the goal should be, well, I just want to make money in the market. That's the goal. It's not to flex. It's not for this. It's not for that. It's to make money and succeed in the market. And that should be the priority above all. So this is where things start to heat up for me. And as I look at NVIDIA, and I was trying to tell everyone, get excited because this thing looks great. Also, too, if you're interested in our indicators here, the link is down below from Lux Algo. They have a lot of our custom scripts as well for our buying and selling volume as well. Make sure you check them out. They have a lot more that I don't use, but these are the ones that I use. Anyways, so we can see we've been stair-stepping, making these higher lows basically since you had their event on Monday. And that was a really interesting sign for me. So you can see as well, you're making those higher lows, clearly established, eventually broke over that key level, 924, 922. Now I'm looking for a continued upside here. And ultimately, I think you're going to break over 970, run towards 1,000. I do believe when you get over 1,000, the likelihood of announcing a stock split goes through the roof. But we can see, we'll have to wait and see. Sorry, because AVGO, one of the names, one of the top three names in the Nasdaq, is sitting at 1353, and they haven't done a split. So it's possible that NVIDIA just trades like this. It totally is possible. So things to consider. Now, as we go broad market, I do want to cover a few things here in particular, like Apple. Okay, like Apple, they had great news, but it's like every time Apple releases good news, I'm convinced the US government wants to take these guys down, or someone does. They release good news and then bad things happen. So they announced that they're partnering with Google for the new iPhone, and they go up. They break above some key levels, start to push back into 180, hopefully above the 200 SMA. And then the next day, it comes out that the SEC is going to be investigating them for having a monopoly in the phone space. Now, I think that's complete BS, but you have to respect what's happening here. You can't just YOLO in here. Now, what I will say is I think Apple's fantastic as far as stock. Like, I think buying stock on Apple kind of can't do any wrong. However, I do think buying options here is a little bit risky. Once this stabilizes, I do believe they're going to beat the case. Shout out to Free Thugga. But I do think that this is kind of an opportunity here. I'll be paying attention to it, but I'm not going crazy in the short term just yet. However, on the other side of that, Google, shout out to those guys, they're ready to rock and roll. Next week, one of the top plays is going to be Google over 151.5. Just to give you a, for instance of where this level stems from is all the way back here, 2022 in January, your previous all-time high there, which you broke already. But again, I want to see a mount of that level. The second you mount that level, it's going to be a slap for me because you could go all the way into 160 personally. Amazon, Jeff Bezos, can do no wrong, dare I say. Whenever I see Ali gets really annoying with me, I say, Ali, here's my card. Go to Amazon. Have some fun. Now, Amazon, you're finding some resistance at this 178 to 180 range. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, the only reason why you're getting rejected here is because of the market with the Nasdaq pulling back. If the Nasdaq shows any strength, you are going to 185, 186 in a hurry. Keep Amazon on your watch list. I love what's happening here. And if I clean this off, I'm going to be really frustrated later that I did this. But let me just clean this off to show you kind of what I'm looking at as well, right? You're making clear higher lows basically since mid-February. I mean, this goes way back too, so just to understand that. But you have a clear top up here, right? And you have a little bit of a wick, but overall, it's an ascending triangle at like 180 to 179. This breaks, again, $5 to $7 easily to the upside. You have to be watching it. Now, I've been saying Meta because what's happening with TikTok is directly benefiting them. Now, this was a little scalp, so let me take that off. We had that on the day. And also, Discord spots will be available in the first, so make sure you're looking out there. Now, I told you guys about Meta in previous videos. I said above 494, slap your mother, tell your grandma, and talk to your dad. You need a loan. Because above 494, you want to rip. Now, Meta is directly thriving on what's happening from the TikTok ban potentially, okay? And it's already passed the House, probably passed the Senate, and Biden already said he's going to pass it if it goes to him. So mounting 504 was step 2. Step 1 is 494, then 504. I believe you're on your way into all-time highs, personally. They've been killing it on earnings. As far as ad revenue as well, they're doing very good in comparison to the competitors like Google. Google's ad revenue is not doing great. Facebook has been still destroying. So things that you want to see, and you have to anticipate, those could start ramping up in anticipation to a cut on Facebook or on TikTok. So again, things to think about there. Definitely exciting. AMD, I wish I had more to tell you here. I posted this on Twitter, so you can go actually follow this. And if you're not following me on Twitter, what do you have against me? I've been telling you NVIDIA for literally days to 1,000 easy. I don't care. No one wants to listen. I said Tesla, 175 retest, going back down. Tesla went straight down. So free game as well. It's all on Twitter. The link is down below, so do what you got to do. But again, going back into here, okay? Keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid, right? In this range of 185 to 174, it's chop city. But if you break above 185, I'm slamming calls above 185. Can't do it until you break that. Below 174.7, the best level of all time. This level has been iconic. It's like Jordan in 7. Let me tell you, it's amazing. You want to see the break and retest down to previous all-time highs in 2021. That's what you're looking for there. Now, it's going to be a long weekend, boys. It's going to be a long weekend, but I'm going to talk about Bitcoin for a second. Now, I'm not even going to go over the Bitcoin chart. All you need to know is mount above 64K and then get above 69.2K and you're fine. Okay. I'm not going to lie. I've been buying too much Solana. I'm going to be totally honest with you. Solana and AVAX have been my top 2 cryptos. So yeah, call me crazy. Number 1 bitch. You can't replace me. Shout out to Wiz Khalifa. But again, I still like what the market's doing. And I think if the market continues on the upside, I think Bitcoin will follow. And Bitcoin has a halving next month. I like what I'm saying. Again, I'm not saying YOLO. I'm not saying be a degen, but I love what we're getting. And I kind of want to be a degen. If you have any questions, comment down below. I answer all the questions personally or my executive assistant, Jay Ream. We'll see you next week. Have a good one, traders. And remember, it's just money.